And we are back. In a recent development, the U.S. Department of Labor has proposed a rule increasing the salary threshold for overtime eligibility. Now, if approved, over 3.6 million more U.S. workers could benefit, receiving time and a half pay for beyond 40 hours. The question is, what impact might this have on the future of U.S. workers? Here now to share more is the employment law attorney, Stephen Mitchell-Sack. And Stephen, glad to have you here. And this proposed legislation and rule could really see a substantial increase. And from what I'm understanding, more than 54% increase could take place if this goes into effect.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Absolutely. It's been a long time coming. The last threshold was like 38,000. And so with inflation and everything, big deal. So if you're making, $55,000 a year, and that's your base pay, you would be still entitled up to that amount to get time and a half if you work more than 40 hours a week. I say it's a long time coming, and hopefully it'll pass this time. Last time it didn't. A federal court judge declined to inaugurate that policy. So hopefully this time it'll work.
Well, talk about the significance of this here, because this is pretty major.
It is. And again, we're talking about, and I'm just looking at my sheet here, that you're talking about 3.8 million more workers in the United States would be able to receive time and a half. See, before this, there was a rule that if you made over a certain amount of money, you weren't eligible to get time and a half. But just in keeping up with inflation, millions of people need the extra time and a half, and just because they're making 55,000 or less, they should get it. So it's a very significant ruling if it's enacted and if the judge approves it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people said that when it comes to workers at overtime, it's been an injustice. And from your perspective as an attorney and one who's worked in the field, do you feel as though what we're looking at has been an injustice, has been corrected if this goes through?
Yes, it's a step in the right direction. As a plaintiff's labor and employment lawyer, which I am, and I've been practicing for 44 years, I represent hundreds of people a year that believe they didn't get minimum wage. There's a spread of hours you're entitled to if you're an hourly worker, where you're entitled to get an extra hour for if you do a 10-hour shift in any day, time and a half, of course, minimum wage, all that. The law is pretty tough against employers. Most employers, if they pay you cash, they're liable for not maintaining records under New York law. You can get statutory damages, double damages, and attorney's fees. It's really something that people should consider. Always think about it. If you feel that you're working in a company and you're not getting paid properly, speak to a lawyer, because you may have rights that you're entitled to assert.
Sometimes we hear about employees who are actually fired, and they're fired without receiving compensation. How prevalent is this in the workforce?
It's very prevalent. In fact, I've made a career out of representing fired workers. I have a new book out called Fired, and all I do is represent, terminated workers every year. And I want people to know that if you're fired, every firing is negotiable. Think about it. Like a lot of companies, they'll bring you in and they'll say, "Here, we got to let you go. There's the door," and they won't offer you severance. They won't give you notice. They won't help you with your COBRA and pay for it. You may be owed a bonus that you were close to getting. They don't want to pay you vacation pay. All of those things are negotiable. And I want our viewers to know that every firing, when you are laid off, don't accept their first offer. Don't bow your head and shuffle your feet out the door. Go back in and negotiate more. In my practice, more than 80% of the time, I'm able to get more money for a fired worker. Now, I'm not saying everybody is entitled to that. Like if you're fired for punching somebody out or drinking on the job, you may not get it. But if you're fired through no fault of your own, you've been in a hospital, let's say for 26 years, you're a nurse, and they lay you off suddenly, and they don't offer you any severance pay, no. You should definitely go back in and on your own or with a lawyer like myself, request some severance pay.
And negotiating is really a serious option here. A lot of people don't know that the negotiation is actually available. I think that when you're laid off, the first opportunity or the first thing that people do is they take the opportunity of walking out the door. But you're saying, listen, don't go out the door, come back through the door and ask some more questions.
These strategies, you're so right, it's tried and true. Okay. And here's another thing. Sometimes they'll bring you in, they'll go, Daren, we want to let you go. Here, sign this letter of resignation. And you think, well, I might look good to the world, but you know what? Then you can't file for and receive unemployment. So you just have to know your rights and know that every firing is negotiable. Let's say you've been there for 20 years and they offer you 4 weeks severance. Go back in and ask for 20 weeks. Ask for 1 week per year. And in fact, I have a new book out that we talked about. It's there's strategies in there, and I recommend you try to get 1 month for every year of employment. You try to get the company to pay for your medical, COBRA, right? I mean, that's a pretty easy ask if you know what to say. And you always pitch, don't threaten litigation. Basically, what you want to say is appeal to corporate decency and fair play. Say, I've been here for 20 years. I have 2 kids in college. My wife is ill. It's going to take me 6 months to find another job. You can't do this to me. You're putting me on the road to financial ruin. And most companies will be very sympathetic, especially if you were a long term, fair minded worker who made them money or saved them money. Why shouldn't they give you a better deal?
Well, Steve, I'll ask this question here. We want you to show us the book because I know you got it next to you somewhere nearby. And for
Sure.
those people who may not know what's actually in the book, you talk about being fired and having rights, and that's something many people don't know about. So give us a little bit about what we can find inside this book.
Thank you. Well, in Fired, I take people through all of the incidents that happen when you're fired. For example, the first half of the book gives you information. Let's say you're a person of color, or you're pregnant, or you're over 60, and you think that you may have been discriminated against by being fired. Well, in Fired, you'll know how to prove a discrimination case and what to do. Now, if you don't have a discrimination case, but you still have been terminated through no fault of your own, the next part of the book talks about how to negotiate a better deal, how to go back in and ask the boss for more money, right? What to ask for. Again, try to get as much severance as you can. Try to get notice pay. Try to get the company to pay for your medical benefits. It's all in here. Outplacement assistance. How about a favorable letter of reference? I have a sample letter in the book which describes what you need. Like, to whom may concern, Daren worked here from blank to blank. He performed his services competently, and we wish him well in his endeavors. A small, short letter of reference is better than a longer one. Also, it's very important to know, is there restrictive covenants? Did the company say that they're firing you and that you can't compete against them or work for a competitor for a while? You don't want that. And in the book, there's sample general releases and separation agreements. Most people, when they're given separation money, severance money, they're asked to sign a release. I have clauses in there to make you be aware of. For example, they may not want you to talk negative about someone. We'll make it mutual. Make a sentence in there that if a prospective employer contacts the company, they'll only confirm your dates of employment, positions held. That way, you know that they may not give you a negative reference. It's all of these things and hundreds of more points and tips that, again, that are in Fired, and that people should. They can get this book at Barnes and Noble or out on Amazon, or they can call me. Another thing people should know: if they ever have a question, call me up. There's no charge. Can I give out my number?
Yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to give you the website. I'm going to give people the website and give them your number in just a second. I'll
Yeah, if
ask you more.
anybody has a question and they've been fired, they can call me. I'm not charging them. I'll be happy, because I'm looking for cases where people are fired after like 20 years. Not if you've been fired in 6 months, but if you've been fired through no fault of your own and you've been there a long time and you're not given a reasonable severance package. Definitely consider working with me. I don't charge any fees up front. I work on a contingency fee, so if I don't get you any more money, it costs you nothing. Clients love that arrangement because it's fair. And all I want to do is seek justice and help people. Being fired is the worst time of your life, basically. You got bills to pay, you have a mortgage to pay, right? You have to take care of your family. Why not try to go back in and get a better deal? We're not necessarily threatening litigation. We're just appealing to corporate decency and fair play to get the company to give you some additional compensation to carry you through a very, very stressful period.
Stephen Mitchell Sack, we're going to leave it there, employment law attorney, and thank you so much for sharing with us, talking about the Department of Labor and overtime as well as firing, and glad to have you with us. All righty, well, if you want more information, visit the website at theemployeeslawyer.com, and then call them at 917-371-8000. Again, 917-371-8000. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.